What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Made in Abyss season 2. This is episode 8, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Mm-hmm. So this is the continuation of Waco's flashback, but the episode actually starts off with Reg meeting Fapata and pretty much asks that she provides something to help buy Nanachi's freedom, and of course, Fapata also. Kind of makes an ultimatum with him, like if she does this favor, that if Reg will stay with her or something like that. And Reg, I don't know if Reg really answers that question, but she decides to help out anyway. And
he says it's something about the promise, and it's a reference to some memory that is a vague memory of Reg's that he has of Fapata. But he doesn't really know what we still don't really know what the promise means. But apparently the promise is really important to her, because she is as soon as Reg mentions that, she rips off her own arm and offers it to him. So yeah, I'm really curious about that. And I have read the manga for this, and I still don't really know what it is. So yeah, it's just one of those things that Reg has forgotten that Fapata knows about. But yeah, as we know, the villagers find, I think, Fapata to be very valuable. So if he were to offer one of them a piece of her, then he could probably, I'm assuming he could probably get a lot for that.
Yeah. I mean, considering and how important she is, once it's revealed by the end of the episode. So back to the flashback, we see. We pick up immediately after the last episode, where it's pretty much confirmed that Wakizen has been feeding the entire expedition team, I guess, the bodies of Iramui's dead children, which not only traumatizes Waco, but it also traumatizes Beloff as well. And we see Beloff just he's just in shock, feeling regret for just knowingly eating Iramui's children, even though it's actually helped him in some ways. But Wakizen, he's continuously going back to Iramui, who's pretty much mutated into this. I don't know what kind of form she's taken, this I don't know, this that huge body pillar or whatever she's become.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. Yeah, but it's basically something you'd see from Bloodborne. That's pretty much what she's turned into. And it's pretty horrifying, because she's really not recognizable anymore, because now she has she's just giant kind of pillar creature with tentacles and a face on it in the hole where I believe her children are birthed out of, and it's also where that egg is implanted inside her.
Yeah, so Waco finds that, I guess, Waku's and gave Iramui a second Cradle of Desire egg thing, which I assumed it's furthering mutating her.
Yeah, because as it's revealed, he's been, I guess, working with those interference units and having them bring him these eggs that he's continuously planting inside of her, which might explain why she's mutating as much as she is.
Yeah. So it eventually gets to the point where Iramui somehow moves and relocates to a different area, and she begins devouring other creatures. But at the same time, other members of the expedition also get killed in the process. So it gets to a point where Beloff, who's still guilty after eating Iramui's children, pretty much offers his entire body to Iramui, and ends up transforming into the Hollow, which we see, which we see back in a few episodes ago, which he looks over Nanachi and Midi.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too, because the the hollow version of him that we see in the current time is pretty different, I would say, from his human version. And I wonder if like, I guess, I mean, I'm assuming it's been hundreds of years since then, but I'm wondering if he's basically just, after all that time, he's pretty much just, I mean, not physically, but also mentally just lost his humanity. That might have been what happened to the other people who turned into those hollows and just done, are really no longer human in any way.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, of course he transforms, and then the rest of them end up, going. This is basically, we learned this is how the the Golden City, or the village where the Village of Hollows is created. That is basically Iramui's body that has been transformed into the village.
Yeah, so pretty much the rest of the expedition team, pretty much, I would say like they're inspired by Belof's transformation into a hollow. So they do the exact same thing and turn into hollows themselves. Waco, on the other hand, decides that she wants to commit suicide and end it all. But before she could do that, Wakizan goes in and stops her from doing so. And he ends up transforming into a hollow himself, and then imprisons her inside of Iramui, where she's pretty much like, like where she was like before, the group finds her in the present day. So she, she's pretty much stuck there for like, I guess somehow like stayed alive for whatever, how long, and taking care of the souls of like Iramui's dead children or something.
Yeah, and that's what those things on the ground were.
Yeah, she pretty much spends her time interacting with them, giving them names, and then just pretty much whatever like she was doing inside for all of this time. And then I think some amount of time later, Iramui gives birth. I guess it like a more perfect child, which is Faputa, which is, I guess, like they described that Faputa was born from Iramui's rage and despair for being exploited by Waki-san. So it's pretty much like, it describes it like with Faputa, obviously leaving like, being vengeful towards all the other hollows for the way Iramui was treated.
Yeah. I can't necessarily say I blame her.
No.
Like, I'd actually be fine if she decided to go and take her revenge on the entire village. But yeah, that kind of explains what Faputa's whole motivation is, and in the current timeline as well.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the end of Fueco's story of how of what happened, to the expedition group, and ends up founding the Hollow Village. So soon after, Riko asks Fueco if there's something that she really wishes for, and Fueco replies that she simply just doesn't want to forget Iramui, and that's where the episode ends.
Yeah. Yeah, that I remember in the manga that flashback is pretty it was pretty rough read, honestly. I mean, it's no different in the anime. I mean, I guess I have to give the anime props for really not cutting most anything out. So I mean, it was about as messed up as it is in the source material. But yeah, I actually thought it was a good episode. I think some of the best parts actually of this story arc are these flashback segments and the relationship between Fueco and Iramui, and then of course the and how Faputa factors into that.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, now that we know the whole story, I'm just curious of like how it's going to move forward from there, because now like now Riko and Reg's goal is to save Nanachi, and supposedly like Reg is gonna use Faputa's arm to hopefully buy her freedom, but we'll see how that works out, possibly by the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that her giving Reg the arm probably like has to come at some kind of a price, even though I mean, because I remember we mentioned like she wanted Reg to stay with her and all that, and I feel like there's definitely going to be some conflict between her and the other members of Rico and Nanachi if Nanachi ever gets out of this. She ever comes back.
I feel like Fapata is going to have some amount of conflict with mainly just Rico, just because of how much time Rico spent with Reg throughout the entirety of the series. So we'll see what happens, but I expect things are going to get tense from here on in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't really have too much else to say about the episode. I mean, it's I would say so far season 2 of Made in Abyss is it's hard to say if I like it as much as season 1. It's a good story arc. Season 1 I feel like I just like it a little bit better because it was an introduction to the world and it had so many interesting concepts. Season 2 is just mostly just it's more of its own thing with the story arc they're going through right now, because it's mainly focused on these new characters it's introduced.
Mainly there's just a lot of exposition throughout the majority of the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the flashbacks, but it makes sense after learning what we learned in this episode. But yeah, until next time, guys, we will see you all later.